Happy Father's Day, everyone. It is a great opportunity to celebrate the father figures in our lives. Now, we all have different experiences of fathers, some more fond and some more familiar than others. For those fortunate enough to have their dad around in a healthy way, this is a day of thanksgiving and gratitude. But although with few exceptions we all have a father, not everyone has a relationship with their biological father. For good or ill, by choice or chance, they may be out of the picture. Perhaps they're too toxic to have around, or maybe it's an anonymous stranger that you've never even met. Or, sadly still, they may be gone from this life, whether by age or by illness. Of course, biological fatherhood is not the only way to be a father figure. Some have found father figures in other ways: a teacher, an older sibling, a step or grandparent, a minister, or someone else. We get fatherly influence from many people throughout our lives, and we, in turn, may be that fatherly figure to someone else, even if we're not dads ourselves, and I'm not. But just what is a father, then? What is it to be a father? I'll take some wisdom from Erich Fromm. You know you can trust him because his name is Eric. He was a social psychologist that lived in the mid-20th century and did a lot of work around personal development and fascism in the 20th century. Now, when I read this book, The Art of Loving, it was life-changing. It opened my eyes to different ways of looking at love that I had never thought of before. If you get the opportunity, I highly recommend reading it. Now, it's not a perfect book. It's a product of its time. It's pretty heavily gendered and pretty heteronormative. But the thesis stands firm. The thesis being, love is an action. It's not just a feeling. It's not something you fall into. It's not something you're in. It's an action. It's an art form that you practice. You have to do in order to get good at. Love is vital to humanity. It is what holds us as people together and what holds us together as a society. Now, in the first part of the book, he outlines a few different types of love, because there are many types of love. There's, of course, motherly love, the kind that is nurturing and caring and unconditional and gentle and protective. There's brotherly love, which is a generalized, fraternal love for your friends, for the rest of your family, for those in your community. There's, of course, erotic love, which is always fun. But what we're interested in here is fatherly love. Now, Fromm defines this as being conditional love, but I don't really like that word. And he's writing in German, so there's a bit of translational ambiguity here. What I want to call it is challenging love. This is the kind of love that's guiding, that's shaping, that's encouraging, that's disciplining sometimes. It provides challenges, a way to grow, a motivation to improve yourself, to become a better person. It's also a way to foster independence and strength and courage. And it doesn't actually always come from one's father. Not even is it inherently masculine in character. You can get fatherly love from a woman, from someone else. Now, of course, all kinds of love have their importance in making a whole human being. And different kinds are more important in different parts of the life course. Now, first, motherly love is the most important because it's key for survival. You need to be cared for because as an infant, you're just all wiggling and wailing. That's all you got. So this non-reciprocal form of love, where the mother is caring for you, absolutely vital. But as we grow, this fatherly love, this shaping love, becomes much more important. To mature, we need motivation, guidance, encouragement. Without a challenge to face, without some motivation to grow, to pursue a goal, a path to walk, it's easy to just be a blob. You got all your needs met, okay, I'll just kind of relax and just do whatever. But you need some sort of challenge, some sort of motivation, some sort of a path to be put forward to not be stagnant. To some extent, this comes naturally in childhood. You gain access to your limbs, and so, yeah, I want that ball on the other side of the room. Go and get it. But it's easier and more effective to have a guide, to have someone to show you the way, teach you how to walk, teach you how to talk. So what forms do fatherly love take? Let's go to the scripture. 1 Corinthians chapter 16, the Apostle Paul, he's writing to a group of Christians, early Christians, in the city of Corinth, which is in modern-day Greece. And at first glance, it's pretty mundane stuff. Hey guys, it's Paul. I'm in Ephesus. Weather's beautiful. Wish you were here. Oh, I'm coming to town next month. See you soon. But then there's this part about Timothy. When he comes to visit, make him feel welcome. He's doing good and important work, just like me. Watch out for him. Encourage him. Don't let anyone look down on him. And make sure he comes back to me in one piece. It's clear that Paul cares deeply about Timothy. They're not related by blood, but he sees him not just as a mentee, but as a spiritual son. There's 2 whole books of the Bible that are just Paul's letters to Timothy. Very important. But at the time of his writing, Timothy's still a young man, maybe even a boy. Paul's sending him out to test his mettle. This may even be his first mission on his own. So of course Paul's a little jumpy, a little worried about Timothy's safety. He's not just casting him away out on his own uncaring. He's asking the church people to take care of little Timothy. Encourage him, support him, help him find his confidence. Don't let him get in over his head. Maybe pull him back if he gets a little overboard. So there's a balance to be struck here. Paul's such a strong leader that he needs to get away from Timothy so Timothy can stay out of his shadow. But he also doesn't want to micromanage him. He wants to let him be on his own, find his own feet. He wants to be challenged, but not thrown to the wolves. And this is what I mean by challenging love. In order to grow, he needs that challenge, and by rising to the challenge, he becomes stronger as a leader. The challenge needs to be great enough that you do have to push yourself, but it still needs to be achievable. You don't want the little toddler to climb a mountain. You want him to climb the stairs. And most importantly, this challenging love requires support and encouragement, the growing pattern by which to become a stronger person. So challenging love can take many forms. It could be an ego-boosting compliment. It could be a hearty cajoling to take bold action, a daring suggestion, a sober second thought, an honest critique, a blunt criticism, a timely rebuke. Fatherly love isn't always pleasant to give or to receive. Sometimes it stings. It can be heartbreaking even. But when we're totally off the rails, sometimes what we need is a dose of challenging love. I bet there were times when young Timothy drove Paul straight to the sacramental wine. And as much as we might care about someone, sometimes what's best for them might be just to stop enabling them. Let them fail on their own. We have to draw a line in the sand. Now, of course, this isn't a justification for unnecessary harshness, definitely not violence, but sometimes love involves conflict. The hope is that this conflict spurs growth, and healing can happen in the process. Of course, no father figure is perfect. I think none of us are perfect. We're all fallible creatures. And a father is very able to lead one astray as well. Sometimes the fatherly guidance is off base, or misunderstood, or dead wrong. Yeah. Sometimes it's overbearing, or patronizing, or even driven by selfish aims. But in a strange way, this too can create growth. Learning to stand up for yourself, reject undue influence, and be confident in your beliefs are valuable skills in their own right. Where'd my coffee go? There it is. And sometimes the roles even reverse. The mentee becomes the mentor. The caregiver becomes the cared for. As Charmaine mentioned earlier, I lost my father, Kevin Sheppard, to cancer last fall. There's a picture. That's us. We're at the westernmost point of the Trans-Canada Highway, Tofino, BC. A road trip, the last road trip we did as a father and son. I owe a great deal of who I am today to his influence. He was full of nurturing love, that motherly love when he was needed, but challenging love was his forte. I do mean challenging in several ways. He was far from perfect. He struggled with his mental health throughout his life and through mine. Post-traumatic stress, alcoholism, anxiety, depression, unpredictable rage. Sometimes it was challenging. There were times when I had to cut him out of my life for my own well-being. And there were other times when we went for months or years without speaking, just because of a disagreement or a misunderstanding that led to an irreconcilable argument. He was indeed challenging. But at the same time, he taught me so much. He was wise and principled and had a strong sense of justice. He would stand up bravely for what he thought was right. He was a lover of language, a voracious reader, and a stickler for effective communication, and elocution, and grammar, and that rubbed off on me. He was also a rigorous thinker who overturned every stone to find faulty logic. And he wouldn't shy away from uncomfortable truths. And he, like me, was stubborn to the end. We're very much alike in a lot of ways. But in other ways, we couldn't be much more different. We had different views of the generalized others. Sometimes he would distrust people. Sometimes he would assume they're being hostile, whereas I like to think the best in people. We also interacted with people differently. He was much more forthright and strong, whereas I'm a bit more of a diplomat, a bit more of an easygoing guy. We differed a lot in worldview. His was a bit more traditional than mine. I'm very much more progressive. He was very understanding and open to new ideas, but he had his limits. And the weird bit is, when I was growing up, he was one of these like Bible-thumping, biblical, literalist Christian types, and I was an atheist. And then I ended up going to a church, preaching at a church, and one winter suddenly he stops believing in God at all. He sees no use for a church anymore. So the same arguments that we were having from this direction, now we're having from this direction. Uncanny. But when he got sick for the last time, like really sick, we did the hard work of reconciliation. After many years of misunderstanding one another, of having conflict instead of conversation, we finally came to understand each other's perspective. There was a difficult conversation in my living room one day. We both broke down into tears, and he understood where I was coming from, why it was so difficult for me to live the kind of life that he thought I should be living. And he changed his heart, and I changed mine. From that moment, our relationship was different. We were no longer fighting, battling. We were suddenly mutually understanding, caring, equals. And gradually, over the coming months, we grew together. As his body failed, I nurtured and comforted. We said our goodbyes and shared our stories, and he died with nothing left said unsaid between us. For all his faults, and for the sometimes insufferable way he went about it, he wanted me to be a better person than he was. And at the end, he told me that I had succeeded. We're all called to love the people we love in different ways at different times. Sometimes it's that nurturing love, the mothering love, and sometimes it's challenging. Both are needed to be whole. Who are the challengers in your life? Who are the ones who encourage, who support, uphold, and strengthen and embolden? Who are the people that have helped set your course, righted you when you've gone wrong, nudged you out of complacency and reined you in when you've got ahead of yourself? If you can, thank them, even if they drive you nuts sometimes. If you can't, because they're no longer with us, or you need to keep them at a distance, be thankful for their influence where it's due. And for all those who have fatherly influence in this world, I thank you. May your wisdom be deep, your enthusiasm be great, and your patience be everlasting. Amen.